Allergy season's in full effect, folks. This is freaking brutal. Just happened. Alright, we have a problem with this today, are we? Alright, we can do that. So, now we're talking. Alright, time to switch it up. I can't see crap. That's a little better. One of the things I hate is a wandering needle. You'll probably find that over the time you're tattooing. You'll have a needle, no matter what you do, no matter how you try to set it up. You'll notice that that needle is walking on you. Left, right, up, down. That's when you've got to decide whether you're going to fight with that needle or you're just going to swap it out. Because in the end, no matter how much you fight that needle, it's going to keep walking on you. Not every tattoo needle is going to be accurate. Not every tattoo needle, no matter who it's from, is going to hold. You need to use your best judgment. I had some really nice quadrant needles. And all I did was hear great things about quadrant, and yeah, I had a couple of bad needles in that package. And the other thing you got to realize is you can't put the nicks on an entire tattoo supplier for one bad needle, because since then I've had quite a few nice ones from Quadrant. So it's like I say, you gotta use your best judgment and realize that you're gonna get bad needles. In the old days, people used to make their own needles, and they had no one to blame but themselves. Nowadays, with everything being medically sealed and safe, sterile, you gotta take the good with the bad. Like I say, not all the needles are created equal. You can get a generic batch of needles just to practice with, like I'm doing now, and you'll find that they're good needles. And the minute you go to use them on skin, you realize why you practice with them. This machine I'm using right now is called a Hello. I know that's going to sound a little weird to you, but that's the name of the machine. It's a Hello with one L. And I mean, most people would call it a generic machine. However, what I found, if you watch a lot of people do reviews and such, and you listen to what they've got to say, it can save you a lot of time, money, and headache. So I've got an Axis Valhalla, which is a really nice machine. It's got adjustable hit, so I can do shading, color packing, lining, but those are expensive machines. one of the machines I always wanted to get was a Bishop Packer. The Bishop Packer is such a nice machine. But if you look up the price of a Bishop Packer, Bishop makes really nice machines, but they're very specific. They have a wand packer, a wand shader, and a wand liner, and they're all very different machines. And I just wanted to get a packer. And then I ran into somebody online talking about the Hello tattoo machine. And he said this is the closest thing to a knockoff Bishop Packer he's ever seen. And then I watched a few of his tattoos and said, you know what? I'm going to give that one a try. And I know what you're saying. You got to support these machines, and I get it. I get it. You got to support the tattoo companies that invent these things. I totally get it. However, when you're tattooing on a budget, sometimes you got to make decisions. So I said, for the price of this machine, and I'm not even kidding you when I say I think I paid $45 for this machine. I said it's worth a shot just to see, you know? And then down the road, when I'm ready, at least now I know, yes, the Bishop Wand Packer is totally worth that money. And I got this machine. I started using it, and wouldn't you know it, this thing is amazing for packing. Just like they said. So, when the time is right, I can totally spend that money on a Bishop Packer now, knowing it's not wasted, because if this machine can do this, I can only imagine what that Bishop Packer does. That's got to be amazing. So you see, someday, right? Someday. One of the hardest things I've found to do with fake skin is drag long lines, because you can't use inkies or any of those on it. The problem with fake skin is I have to dab. I can't even wipe. If you wipe, you will wipe the stencil right off the fake skin. I've tried using heat to get it to hold. I've tried everything. And I have found that nothing, I repeat, nothing really holds the stencil on fake skin like it will on real skin. Now, I use Spirit paper, which is the best paper. And I use Electrum stencil stuff, which I find works really good. Now, if I put one of these stencils on human skin, I can wipe and wipe and wipe and wipe and wipe, and short of using rubbing alcohol, you ain't getting that stencil off. But you see, skin will bite, skin will absorb, which is the whole idea of tattooing, really. So when I put the stencil stuff on skin and then put the stencil on, the skin absorbs it. It stays in there. Not the same with fake skin. I cannot get it to absorb and hold the stencil. Now, if I get a really shitty fake skin, oh yeah, it'll hold it. Problem is, it'll never get rid of it. It also won't get rid of the ink. So everything you put on that fake skin stays. Everything. It becomes messy quick. I've got a couple of those fake skins that really held the stencil well. And if you look at any of my old videos where I show all the previous tattoos I've done, You'll see some of the stencils. I mean, some of the fake skin has almost like a blue haze to it or a purple haze to it. That's the stencil. Never left. So even after I finished tattooing it, wiped it all down, cleaned it all up, the stencil just keeps bleeding out. It's in there forever. So there's good and bad to having stencils that hold. That's for sure. My nose will not stop running today. Imagine if I didn't take an allergy medicine. My God. No. Fake skin is important for people learning how to tattoo, just so that they can practice steadying their hand, pulling a decent line, things of that nature. But it's never going to take the place of real skin. So the thing you have to remember is, no matter how much you practice on fake skin here, the day you go to do a regular tattoo on a human being, just know that your hand shaking, your nervousness, all of that, it's totally normal. Totally normal. My gosh. Excuse me. Allergy season's killing me. But yeah, even to this day, when I go to tattoo somebody, you get the nerves. Because, there's serious ramifications to a bad tattoo, and you don't want to be the one that puts that on somebody. I know I don't. So you do your best. But ultimately, if you've done enough practice skin, and you've done enough to really hone your craft, so to speak, when things pop up during a tattoo, you know how to handle them. You don't want to be surprised. And you don't want to surprise the person you're tattooing with a bad tattoo either. There's a lot of pivoting in tattooing. You'll see as you go that, you'll think in your head, oh, I'm going to do it this way. And as you're doing it, you're like, oh, that's not working. So while you're doing it, you go, all right, that's not working. Let me try it this way. And you'll try a bunch of different ways on a certain line you're pulling or something. And then you hit it and you're like, there it is. There it is. And then boom, it all just starts working. Because one of the things you find is all skin's different. It all reacts different. And you'll also find that not everybody not only has the same skin, but not only everybody has a different sensitivity. When I started tattooing, I say I'm all self-taught. So everything I was doing, I was learning as I went. And trust me when I say, if you can get an apprenticeship somewhere, just do it. Not that there's anything wrong with tattooing yourself, learning how to tattoo yourself. But if you have an apprenticeship, you've got somebody there who's going to save you a lot of trouble. And by trouble, I mean all the little hiccups, the valleys, the problems that people like me have to learn the hard way. That's why the first few tattoos I ever did were on myself. Like I said, you got a certain responsibility to people that you're tattooing. So when someone agrees to let you tattoo them, you're in a partnership. They understand. that you're just tattooing on the side. And you understand that they just want to get as good a tattoo as possible. And they're praying you don't screw them up. So you try not to. So one of the things I try to tell people that are learning how to tattoo is the big thing, and that's keeping everything clean. Because it only takes a minute with bloodborne pathogens and whatnot to really get somebody sick. And you don't want to do that ever. Ever. So you've got to use Cavicide. You've got to use wraps. You've got to use gloves. You've got to use ink that you did not buy off of Amazon. You got to use a new needle every single time. And you've got to be very adamant about controlling cross-contamination. And a lot of people, that's where they have hiccups. Once you glove up, be very careful what you're doing with those gloves. And once you start touching things, be very careful what you're touching. If you think you may have touched the wrong thing, you got to get rid of those gloves and start over. Sucks, but it's the way it is. There's no redos, you know. This is why even when I've been practicing, before I ever even tattooed anybody, I made sure I was always gloving up. I was always doing things in the correct order, because old habits will die hard. And if you start practice tattooing a certain way, and you get used to doing it that way, the minute you're not paying attention when you're tattooing, that's what you're going to do. And that can lead to all kinds of fun stuff for the poor bugger you're tattooing. So it's important to glove up. It's important to follow the rules. It's important to pay attention. And there's a lot of things when you're tattooing that'll come up. You'll be tattooing somebody who smokes. In the middle of tattooing, they're like, "Can I have a cigarette?" And you'll say, "Sure." If they get up to get a cigarette, you gotta wrap them. You gotta throw away your gloves. When they come back, you gotta start over. Clean their tattoo, start the whole process over. New gloves, all of it. If you got somebody who's a really heavy smoker, it's going to be a long night for you, because every 20 minutes, they're going to want a cigarette break. And what's worse is, usually while they're getting tattooed, the stress makes them want to smoke more. I'm not a smoker. I smoke cigars and stuff, but people that are, cigarette smokers and they're addicted to that nicotine, they're going to want to have a cigarette. It can be tough. So right now this packer I got here is set at 8.2, which is pretty good voltage, but I've got pretty fast hand speed, so it's working out. When you're first starting out, the thing you got to remember is you got to match your hand speed to your voltage. So if you're not as proficient, so to speak. You're a little slower because you're concentrating on the depth, you're concentrating on the line, you're concentrating on being steady. You have to lower that voltage a little bit. Once you start tattooing on skin, you'll see that if you use too heavy a voltage and you're going slow, you'll put some trauma in that skin. You don't want to do that. Everybody have a good Easter? How was Easter for everybody? What I'll do is at the end of this, I'll edit it so at the end you can see what I'm tattooing here, because I know it's kind of a tough angle you're at. But it's one of those tattoos that I'm a sucker for mashups. I'm a sucker for things unusual. At least on fake skin, I like to keep it a little interesting. As far as tattoos on real skin go, I mean, it's really a lot of the time up to what the people want, you know? They'll want, like, you know, a name, they'll want a saying, they'll want a picture that means something to them. And so the exciting part of that is, you know, you're doing something that they really want. And that's the exciting part. But when I'm doing fake skin like this, it's tough to get excited about some of this stuff if it's boring. So I like the unusual because it's fun. Let's be honest. Who wants boring? I don't like boring. I should have probably not had 3 cups of coffee before I came out here, because that helps steady my hand, but coffee is life, so you just gotta deal with the shakies. When I'm tattooing a person, I definitely watch my caffeine intake, because it all affects it. And when I'm tattooing a person, it's more about them than me. So I've got to say sorry to the coffee for the morning. And hit it hard when I'm done tattooing, you know? Now this is something that can happen to you. I almost lost this. I'm looking at this stencil going, what is that right there? Because it's so faded and soft. It doesn't look like anything. But it was in fact the other tooth that's disappearing in the stencil. There it is. Perfect. So yeah, a lot of times when I first started out, I would always have whatever I'm tattooing on the side of me, even though I have a stencil. And the reason being is a lot of times the stencil, halfway through tattooing, disappears on you. And a lot of times the stencil washes out, especially when you start wiping. So what I would do is I would get a picture of whatever I'm tattooing, hold it next to the tattoo. Because the last thing you want to do is lose sight of what you're doing, which can happen real easy with a stencil. Like I say, the stencil will wash out, especially when you're tattooing somebody. You tend to wipe and wipe and wipe and wipe, and you're wiping because they're bleeding. The plasma's coming out of the tattoo, and makes what you're doing completely unseeable. So you got to keep wiping. After a couple of wipes, parts of the stencil disappear. Not a lot, just enough. You can lose some of that fine detail, some of the edge. So what you do is you try to keep a picture next to you, usually blown up. And wherever you are in the tattoo, you turn that picture so you're in the same zone. You're looking at it at the same angle. You're seeing the same thing. It helps. I wouldn't say otherwise. I'm not here to give anybody any bad advice. If anybody listens to anything I'm saying, I'm hoping it helps them, because I didn't have anyone there to help. And a lot of what I learned the hard way. That's why I have so many fake skins that don't look exactly the way I wanted them to look. Because little by little, you start to see what works and what don't. And, you can go on YouTube and you can watch people tattoo, like I'm doing right now. You can have them give you advice. But short of you being able to absorb all that advice, hold it, and have it there all the time, the only way you're going to learn is by doing. Theory is one thing, doing it is another. So, ultimately, you're going to have to get out there and do it. This needle I'm using right now is a new one for me. It's a CNC 3 round liner. So I probably should have used something a little beefier for some other parts of this tattoo. But this is my first time using the CNC 3. And I wanted to try it out, see how it is. The ink control isn't bad. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not getting a lot of spit, and I've got the needle hanging out. If you look, I don't know if you can see that. I don't know. Yeah, you probably can't see that, but I got the needle hanging out pretty good. Usually when the needle hangs out pretty good, it will spit ink everywhere. But so far, I can't complain. Now, as you use these needles, the membrane gets a little worn, and they do start spitting ink. There's not much you can do there, except fight it, you know? And in a pinch, if you really want, you can swap it out for a newer one. This machine is really, when I say this thing is like a bishop wand, I'm not kidding. This thing is smooth. So, if you ever find yourself wanting a bishop wand but not wanting to pay for it, and I'm in no way being endorsed. Trust me, I don't make a penny on any of this stuff. I'm chasing that Mr. Beast money, but I'm not there, that's for sure. But if you're looking to get one of these, it's the Hello tattoo machine. It is really, really good for packing. And like I say, I don't know what it sells for now. It's been a while since I bought this one. I think I only paid I'd like to say $40 for this thing. And it was another one of those ones where I was watching a video somebody had made, where they were doing knockoff tattoo machines and rating them. And they got to this one. And they said of all the knockoff machines they have, this is the one they praise the most. They can't say anything bad about it. So, for the entry price, I said you can't go wrong. It's worth a shot. I have a few other ones that are very surprising for what they are. I have a few Poseidons. Now, Poseidon is one of the lower end machines as far as price point. They're usually like a 3.5 stroke. And a lot of people don't like them. But I've had a few Poseidons. I can't say anything bad about a single one of them, to be honest with you. Not a single one. Really like the Poseidon. As far as affordability goes, Poseidons are good. Ambition's good. I like Ambitions. I did have, if you scroll through my videos, you'll see the one I did with the Luton. And, you know, they never really gave me an answer on that one, so I never bought another one. But I have an Ambition Soldier, a battery, and, gosh, I really do like the Ambition tattoo machines. And my first ever tattoo machine was a masked tour. That was the first. Sorry. It's all right, Dad. So, I had a masked tour that I got to just start learning. I said, well, I'll get something cheap and see what I can do. Because I didn't want to get too far in the hole if the first time I ever put a machine in my hands, it went south. And it worked out. That mass tour, by the way, 3.5 mil stroke. So it was a good all-around machine. I can't say anything bad about that machine. I love that machine. It was a tiny thing. It was like the size of a lipstick. And I recently just gifted it to someone so they can learn how to tattoo, because the thing never steered me wrong. I couldn't fault it. So, told them, use it and enjoy it. So this is what I usually do when I'm tattooing, is I'll take a 3-round liner and I'll do everything major. And I do everything major for one reason. This is what I mean about cross-contamination. You can't touch the top of this needle. Even though you're gloved, the gloves can be contaminated. You can't touch the top of that needle. If you do, needle's no good. You gotta be very careful. So what I do is I'll do the whole tattoo in a 3-round liner. That way, if any part of the stencil is gone, I at least got it in there with some ink. So like now, if I pull this up and show you, the main part of the tattoo is here, see? But it's not done. It's not even close. It's just at least I have enough of the tattoo down here where I can make it work now. Whereas if I try to go real heavy right off the bat, because it's fake skin, I'll lose it. And then I got nothing to tattoo. So I try to get the entire stencil outline done with a 3. That way I've got something to follow and finish the tattoo. And when you're on skin, you don't have to do that, because like I say, skin will hold the frickin' stencil like a glove. now I can put my hands on it like a tattoo on a person, because I'm not worried about losing the stencil that's in. Once I wipe it down, most of the stencil's gone. So now I'm working off of what I tattooed with the 3. And you'll see I'm a lot more freer now. I can put my fingers right in the tattoo. I'm able to wipe harder. All of this is because there's no more stencil problems, which is the big problem with, this one's a tattoo. Is this a rhine? Is this a rhine? No, this is that other one. Oh, this is this one. Let me see. This is a so-long. Yeah, this is another one of these ones. I only use these needles to do practice tattoos. So-long tattoo. All of those types, like wormhole and all that. Those are not the best quality. I was wondering why I was spitting ink all over immediately. The other needle I was using, that CNC, I was gonna say this. That needle was holding up pretty good. It wasn't spitting ink everywhere. The minute I put this needle in, it's a battle. It's spitting ink all over the tattoo. And you'll find when you're tattooing people, you'll have needles that start spitting right away. Until you get the hang of it, until you really know what you're doing, you're best to stop everything, wipe. Sometimes you gotta wipe a few times. Sometimes those needles are only good when they only have like half the ink they can hold in it. Any more than that, they'll just spit it. And then, like I say, you'll find needles that while you're tattooing, no matter what you do, they just keep spitting. And sometimes you're just gonna call that a loss, swap that needle out for something else, because you will run into bad needles. Sometimes you'll fight it. You'll be like, nah, it's not a bad needle. It's just this, it's that. Yeah. A lot of times it's just a bad needle. Just call it. I've run into, like I say, I've run into bad needles with some quality needle manufacturers. I guess what do you do? I mean, the minute you mass produce anything, you're gonna have issues, I guess, right? Back in the day, like I say, people used to make their own needles. And they had no one to blame but themselves. With a tattoo this small, you gotta be very careful how big you go with certain parts of it. With a small tattoo, and this is, like I say, it's fake skin. This is just practice. But one of the things about practice is knowing what you can and can't get away with. So when I say this is just practice, one of the things I like to practice is what you can and can't get away with tattooing people. When you're doing a small tattoo like this, you got to be very careful about how big the lines are and how close they are together, because as tattoos age, they bleed in, close up a little bit. And if you're making tattoos that are small but you're using big lines, within a couple of years that tattoo's just going to look like a blur. You don't want to do that to people, so it's good to practice while you're practicing what lines you can get away with, what lines you can't. And you'll do tattoos on fake skin where you're like, oh, I'm glad that's not a real tattoo, because you look at some of the line work, how close it is, and you're like, if that's on somebody, it ain't gonna last. The big thing now, of course, is these people doing all these fine line tattoos that look like pictures. While they're good now, I don't know how they're gonna hold up down the road. And I know everybody's entitled to do whatever they want with their own body. I get it. I'm not faulting anybody. But a lot of the fine line tattoos, as they age, make a lot of people unhappy. I mean, you must see it now, right? You see those tribal tattoos from the 90s and 2000s? And they're all like kind of blurry and choppy. Those are big chunky lines too, usually. So you gotta remember, that happens with all of them. I've tattooed people with very sensitive skin, and while I'm tattooing them, it's closing up. So you gotta have a soft hand, and God's sakes, don't use green soap on those people. Don't use green soap. Or the whole tattoo is gonna swell up on you. Now the thing I've had a lot of problems learning over the years is how to pull using your elbow, especially since I just shattered my elbow and it's not terribly happy with me. But when you're pulling lines, if you get the hang out of using your elbow to pull your arm rather than pulling with your wrist, you will pull much steadier, much straighter lines. It's a whole thing. It's tough to get the hang of, but if you can get the hang of that habit when you're starting out, oh, so much better. So much better to pull, like right now, you see how my arm is? If I'm doing a line, rather than going like this with my hand, pull the whole arm down from the elbow. And you'll find the line gets so much crisper. It's definitely a habit I wish I would have learned quicker, because I still have the habit of pulling with my wrist, and sometimes it's to the detriment of my lines. When it's a tight line in a small spot, you don't really need to use your elbow, because a lot of times you're barely moving even your wrist. But for big lines, if you pull with your elbow, that line ends up crisp. Let me tell you. The other thing I never got the hang of, maybe this is just something that is a comfort thing, but I notice a lot of people tattoo with like big fat deals here, and I've never gotten into that. I've always held the tattoo machine like I do when I'm drawing. Maybe it's a habit of mine. It might even be what you'd call a bad habit. I don't know. But I do see a lot of those big fat grips. And I tried one, and it didn't go well for me. I need more ink. What's going on with you, pal? Are you plugged in? No, you're not. That would do it. There you go. All right. Anybody know what time it is? Anybody? Oh, I'm burning clock here, I guess, huh? All right. And there we go. I now have a needle that's starting to spit ink, just like I told you about. Now I'm wearing cheaters. I do that because I want to see more of a magnification of what I'm doing here. But let me tell you the one problem about cheaters, and it's what I just did, which is why I had to add more ink. When you go to dunk your needle in the ink while you're wearing cheaters, after a while, you do it so fast, you're not paying attention, and then you just basically tip the whole thing over. That's what I just did. And it's probably a bad habit wearing cheaters every time I tattoo, because now it's to the point where if I try to tattoo with just my glasses on, I don't trust what I'm seeing, and that's probably more of habit. Like, I've done it so long with cheaters on fig skin now, I don't trust my glasses to really let me know what I'm seeing. That's a bad thing. But I keep the cheaters, so I guess the worst part of wearing cheaters like I do is, like I was saying, I keep knocking over my damn ink. I don't learn. Sometimes I don't learn. You see, you'll go over a line and you'll be like, yeah, that's good. Then you look, oh, wait a minute, I gotta go over it again. Then you look, wait a minute, I gotta go over it again. Rather than just trying to go over lines when you're practicing, try to figure out what it is you did wrong that's making you go over it again. That way, you don't have that problem when you're tattooing. Spitting again, you little bugger. Find the sweet spot. There it is. Now I'm using a 7-round liner here because I've got a lot of fill in here. But the problem I got is there's a lot of fine lines where the fill-ins are. So what I'm doing is using the 7 because it's a little thicker. Usually you use a Magnum, or you can even get away with doing a shader. But because of all the fine lines I've got very close, I don't want to whack one of them and lose it. Like I got negative space. And if you lose that negative space, it's over. You're not getting it back. I don't want to lose that negative space because that's a whisker. You know what I mean? Can't lose the whisker. What kind of a tiger is that without a whisker? Even now, like when you're tattooing at this point, you've got everything pretty much laid out. Now you're just doing a lot of fill work, touch-up work, correcting a few lines that didn't go in right. Even now, it pays if you have the picture next to you. Because when you're doing fill work like this, sometimes you'll be just going and going and going, and you're like, yeah, and I'll fill that in, and I'll fill this in. Then you look and go, oh crap, where'd that whisker go? Yeah, you just made that whisker disappear because you weren't paying attention. So when you have a picture that you're tattooing next to you, even during fill work, it's good to just look at your reference, make sure you got it right, because there's no going back, especially, like I say, with negative spaces. I've got whiskers here that, if I'm not careful, I'm gonna have a tiger here without whiskers. And because it's a mashup, it really won't make much sense, because in the taped on spot in the middle is the pink panther. So if you do this wrong, you lose the pink panther. Now, there was a guy I'm going to give a shout out to now. I'm not sure if he'll appreciate it or not, but I believe in giving people their dues. Now, when I started tattooing 5 years ago, there wasn't a lot of content out there at the time, sadly. There's a ton now. There's people all over the place that'll tell you what machines to use, what inks to use, what needles to use, how to do what you're doing, the whole bit. But when I started, it was pretty thin, the amount of people out there giving information. There was a lot of what they call tattoo gatekeeping. There's a lot of that, where the gatekeepers were saying, look, if you don't apprentice, you shouldn't be doing it. So, a guy like me, learning how to tattoo when he's in his late 40s, was basically being told, yeah, you shouldn't be tattooing. That's basically what the message was. It's like, oh, you're in your late 40s? Yeah, you started too late. No tattooing for you, bud. But I don't want to take no for an answer. If there's one thing I was taught, if you're going to fail, don't do it through lack of effort. Now, of course, you've got all these guys that show you different ways to tattoo, different methods. They show you how to do shading, and heck, there's some guys out there on YouTube that'll tell you what to set your machine at, what voltage, what depth. They'll break it all down for you. And it's great. It's great for people that are learning. And I'm saying all this because when I was learning, I only found one guy that was really, at the time, helping. And that was Dave. This guy, Dave. And I believe he's up in Texas now, tattooing. I believe it's Texas, yeah. But he goes under Dave Inks 88 on Facebook. I've been following him ever since I learned how to tattoo because he was one of the only guys, like I say, who would help you. And a lot of it was just, if I've got to be honest, a lot of it was just positive message. I mean, he had a couple of videos out there that would show you certain things, but a lot of his help came from just being positive. This thing's spitting ink again. So if you go on podcasts, it's still up. I don't know how long he's going to leave it up, if he's going to leave it up forever, but there's a podcast out there called Art Something. And that's Dave. And there's only a few. I think he's only got like 10 podcasts out there or something. He only did a few. But if you go to Art Something, it's a positive message the way he does it. And it, for lack of a better word, sometimes you just need someone who believes in you to give you that extra push, because you start doubting yourself. Like, oh, maybe I really can't do this. I found Dave, and he was like a savior, because I was listening to his podcasts, and then I would start putting them on repeat. So like I would listen to his podcast while I was working. I'd have my headphones on, and I would listen to him, and then I would listen to him, and then I would listen to him. One of the things he used to say that I'll still say to this day to anybody that's learning how to tattoo is, you can tattoo. You can. When you say, I can't do this, no, you can. Now, that being said, I'm not saying that you're going to design tattoos. I'm not saying that you can freehand draw tattoos. I'm saying you can tattoo. You can tattoo. And this is something Dave used to say. And it used to ring in my ears, because I'm like, I can't do this. And then I would listen to Dave, and then I'd pick up the gun. I said gun, I know. Machine. I'd pick up my machine, my gun. I've actually seen them advertised as guns now. Go figure, right? Talk about gatekeeping disappearing. People are actually advertising tattoo machines as guns. But anyway, I've listened to Dave straight say, you can tattoo. And I would be like, I can't do this. I mean, I put up a video where I was showing all my fake skins, and the first few are the ones I started out with. And I literally, if you look at those first few fake skins, they're god-awful. I was seriously doubting whether or not I was worthy. I was like, I shouldn't be tattooing. But it was, like I say, it's practice. It's learning depth. It's learning control. It's learning all these things. You're not going to learn them unless you keep doing them. And thank goodness for Dave, because Dave is the reason why I kept on it. I found Dave, and he was just Mr. Positive, you know? He's like Burgess Meredith in Rocky. He's talking to you, telling you, you know, hey man, it isn't as hard as you think. Lighten up and just get back out there and do it. So I just kept tattooing. I just kept doing it. And who knows, maybe that's why I'm talking to the camera right now, because maybe this is my chance to pay it forward a little bit like Dave did. And I believe you can tattoo. Anyone can tattoo. I believe that. You don't have to be a complete or a complete artist. You don't have to be the type of person who spent their whole life doing nothing but drawing to tattoo. Now, there will be labels attached to some of those people, sure, but that doesn't mean they can't tattoo, right? Now, when I say labels, you're probably like, what do you mean labels? Well, if you're a person who can't draw at all, but you tattoo, they'll call you a tracer. If you're a person who can tattoo, but not very well, they'll call you a scratcher. There's labels out there. Like I say, gatekeeping, right? But ultimately, you can tattoo, can't you? This is what I'm saying. I'm repeating. I'm just repeating what got me through it. That's Dave. Dave Inks, 88, on Facebook. Look him up. Follow him. Great tattoo artist. Very positive human being. He's great. He's great. I still follow his tattoos to this day. I still comment on them. He's come a long way himself. And, you know, he moved out to, like I said, I believe he moved out to Texas. I think that's where he's at now. He is just a great tattoo artist. But there he was, you know, he was learning himself. He got out of the military and started tattooing. And the positive that comes out of that guy, it's great. So yeah, look him up, Dave Inks, 88. And like I say, if you ever want to just listen, go to his podcast, Art Something. He's also got a bunch of YouTube videos. He used to do a lot of YouTube videos, and then he stopped. I think he stopped when he started tattooing professionally, because it's like anything else. There's only so much time in the day, right? Only so much time in the day. What are you gonna do? Can't be doing everything. Man, this thing is really spitting now. while. I gotta get ready for work, so we're almost done here. Having some fun with this. But yeah, if you're a person who likes tattoos, let me turn this down a bit. I'm gonna do a little stipple, I think. There we go. If you're a person who likes tattoos, likes tattooing yourself, it's worth a shot to just see what you can do. Don't let them gatekeep you, you know? Have some fun with it, like I'm doing right now. I'm just making shit up as I go here. This isn't part of the tattoo, but I'm looking at it and going, you know, let's do a little stipple here. Why not? What's it gonna hurt? It goes against the design, but like I say, if there's one thing I'm good at, it's mashups. I love them. I love messing with things, turning things a little sideways. Love it. And stipple shading, that's another one that you'll have to like practice. What I'm doing right now. And like I said, it's all practice. Everything's practice. That's what I'm doing here. I have a buddy of mine I was supposed to tattoo probably the past 3 weeks in a row. But with everything going on with my mother and then Easter Sunday, it's just been a whirlwind of what the hell. So we just keep trying, you know. This right here, what I'm doing is Vaseline. I get a big generic can of Vaseline, and it's just for fake skin. I don't use Vaseline on tattoos because of the petroleum in it. I use Inkies primarily, and I know Inkies has petroleum, but it's not like Vaseline. I use Inkies mostly to let the needle glide. And then when I'm cleaning a tattoo like this on a person, I use green soap. And green soap works wonders. But green soap on fake skin is not a good thing. Does not work. And I gotta get ready for work, so if there's any touch-ups going on with this one, it's gonna be at a later date. It looks like it's the chin mostly that I'm not too happy with. The chin got too light on me. But, you know, I was stipple shading the chin and that didn't help bring in the darkness for sure. Not with how hard I was hitting it. I was hitting it pretty soft. Come on, you get out. I don't want a sooty fake skin. There we go. I usually use Sinra fake skin. It's cheap and works good. This here is not Sinra. I could not get any Sinra, so I got this. And it's a little bit of more work getting it clean, that's for sure. I had some really cheap fake skin one time I bought. I thought, oh, this is a good deal. I bought it. And you could clean it as hard as I'm cleaning right now, and it would look like you pulled it out of the bottom of a chimney. It was awful. I still have those fake skins over there. People always say, what happened to this one? Like, you don't want to know. Anyway, are we ready? Let me first break this stuff down, because I got my gloves still. Barrel over here. Ugh. Clean all of this. Like I say, you can't be clean enough. So I take my machines apart. I'll show you here. And I use caddy wipes. And if you use caddy wipes, make sure you keep your gloves on, because this stuff is so strong it kills the cells that are on your skin. But I take the machine all apart, clean the hell out of it. Don't do that. You'll screw up my tattoo, man. Put that in the UV light. Alright. The rest of this stuff. Caddy wipes my line. Put that away. And then we'll take a peek, shall we? Let me get the gloves off. There. Gloves are off. And there it is. Bye-bye.